Welcome to the Channel Surfers, the podcast helping channel leaders avoid the rocks, catch the right waves, and build a partner ecosystem that actually drives revenue. I'm John McCabe, co-host of the Channel Surfers, and I'm joined as always by my good friend and fellow co-host, Jeff Lennon. How you doing, Jeff?
Hey, John, I'm doing fantastic, man. I had a nice, good, semi-long weekend. Got to sit in 100-degree temperatures for a couple days. It was exciting.
Very nice. Very nice. Everybody needs a little break, right?
Yeah, who needs a sauna when you could just go stand outside?
Yeah. Well, I live in the South. It's like that from June until September. Sauna weather. So, but it's all good. It's all good. Hey, today we have an interesting topic we're going to talk about. You know, every cybersecurity startup says they want to start a channel, right? And,
Yep.
You know, we're in that business. We know, we hear what they're saying. But they go and hire like a channel manager, buy a PRM, maybe print some hoodies to give away to partners, and wonder why 6 months later they have 200 registered partners and zero partner revenue. You know, today we want to talk about how to build a real channel program from absolute zero without wasting 2 years and hundreds of thousands of dollars making the same mistakes that everyone else makes. I think this is a very topical question or topical subject because there are a lot of startups out there right now that are looking to get into work with partners. And we know this for a fact. We talk to these partners, but they don't know the direction or they don't know the process to get into work with partners. And we'd like to help all those executives or channel managers out there trying to help build a channel with a startup, right? So let's start with your first thought about that. What's your impression on starting a program from scratch?
That's a great question. So I think there's a couple key factors you have to take into account, right? When you're trying to do this, understanding it goes back to, we talk about all the time, fundamentals, but it goes back to understanding what those fundamentals are of your solution, of the problem and the challenge you're trying to solve. And then figuring out where's the best place to lean in. Now, I know a lot of small startups, right? Everybody starts selling direct, right? The leadership team, through the angel investors, through some of the, that early funding where they're friends and family, maybe they're getting leads and things like that. And that's great. But that's not sustainable over a longer period of time. And, figuring out where and how to lean in and what areas that you want to, figure out where does your solution fit? What is the problem you're solving, as I just mentioned? And then going after that, like identifying that ICP, like, hey, we help these customers in this space do these things. You and I have had an opportunity to talk to, a handful of small companies. And what's interesting is, you're not going to be all things to everybody. And everything is not your market. And when they try to do that, they go too broad and then they kind of fall down, right? So one of the key things that I like is, let's identify that problem you're solving for the vertical or industry or business, right? Your ICP, your ideal customer profile, I think is number one. Making sure that you have a very clear, simple, consistent message. Making sure that, that your pricing is also simple and consistent. And then also I come back to my simple, easy, repeatable, make sure that your motion is just that, simple, easy, and repeatable, the sales motion. So that you can once you get in front of a handful of these customers and you've gotten your customer proof, right?
Yeah.
That you can then start to parlay that. But not trying to build something too quickly or too fast, and picking the right partner.
Yeah.
I think that's also important.
And that's a great answer. Let's be honest. The channel is not a lead gen machine, right? That's what marketing does. They help create the lead gen. Channel is a scale engine, but only after you've proven your product is a market fit, right? You got to get the interest of the partner. So, here's what we hear. Startup founders, startup sales executives, they go to our partners and say, hey, we want to sell with you guys. And they think that's it. You just say, hey, I want to be a part of that. And, you go for it. But they don't have any of the groundwork in place, right? And it's an uncomfortable conversation with these partners because they're like, well, our line card has 1,000 vendors on it.
Yeah.
What makes you different? And where are your reps located? And do you have a formal channel program? Do you have a PRM? Are you doing the things that a program needs to do to actually interact and sell with a partner, right? And that key word there, sell with, not get handed deals from the partner. That's never going to work, right?
100%.
And in our business, the Partner Architects Group, that's what we do. We help these startup companies understand what the framework looks like, how to interact with partners, how to get to a point where you can build a pipeline and then realize opportunity, right? And I think number one is, building your ideal customer profile. Who is the customer your product is a best fit for? Then you got to find out what partner is a fit for your ICP and for your product. So like a two-pronged approach there.
Absolutely.
If you're in a vertical like cybersecurity, I'd say all your partners are going to be selling your product and they're a good fit, right? You want to look at the routes to market. You want to look at, what vertical are you focused on?
Well, and I'll say this, John. I mean, and you and I have done this. A red flag for me, right, is when you hear somebody at the organization company, we just need the partner to bring us some leads. We just need the partner to bring us deals. Yep. That to me is a huge red flag. It just means that they're really not ready for channel because first of all, they're not ready, but they also may not understand the inner workings, because there's a lot, to your point, a lot of legwork that has to go into it.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's not even a lot of legwork. It's just there are some things that need to be stood up and some processes that need to be laid out so everybody's on the same page. But it's, to your point, it's not a cash register. It's not a lead machine per se. So when I hear that, I just kind of pause. So
I tell my reps all the time, channel partnerships, they're not an ATM machine. You don't go and hit your passcode and get money coming out of it, like of a partner. But here's a good point to just kind of highlight what you were saying. If the executives of the company you're working with are not sold on channel, if they're like, well, we want to try both direct and channel, I suggest you run as fast and far away from that one as you can, because it just never works going halfway in. You want executives that are saying channel is one of our best routes to market when we build the program properly, and if you have good lead gen, greasing the skids and getting things started is bringing deals to the partners so they could see how you work, they could see how your product works, and get used to the process of selling with you.
Yeah, without a doubt. It's interesting. When done correctly, to your point, and by the way, I'll just back up a half step. So you can run, or you could be like the guy in the waiting room, just grab a magazine and just kind of sit there and wait, because they're gonna fail. They're gonna fail. I've tripped over enough of these over my career where they went down that path, regardless of what they were being told and the support they were being given, and they end up failing, and then they end up coming back, but now you have this problem because they've gone down a path, they have failed that path, and now they're a little jaded, right? They're a little bit more apprehensive because they're like, well, it didn't work. But I also think it came back to because maybe things weren't properly planned or executed, right? And as I mentioned before, like to your point, when you're going out and you're selling directly, that's going to happen in the beginning. I mean, it's, especially with the founding of a company. But don't forget, direct selling that you're doing, that's what that's teaching you what the partners are going to need to know later,
Yeah.
right? And
Yep.
if you skip that learning education step, or you don't take that and I don't want to say productize it, but formalize it into a process, then you're going to skip that learning phase, and that's just going to create the channel, some additional channel chaos
Sure.
as you
Yeah.
go forward.
Yeah. Well, here's something just to kind of consider. Number one, you could wait around and wait till they fail, but honestly, you might be wasting your time going to a company that really does believe. I read
Yeah.
something on LinkedIn today about a CRO was talking to this channel consultant, and he said he was at a conference. And he said, I'm about to give up on channel. It's just not doing what we want it to do. And basically, this consultant told the CRO, well, there might be a step that you're missing. Like when he went and investigated, the channel manager was telling that they were going to partners and saying, hey, just give me a name and I'll throw it in and we'll see if it's, it fits. Cause I'm, commissioned or comped on
Yep.
the
Yep.
number of deals that are registered, right?
Yep.
Big mistake. And they weren't getting quality partner leads and it just wasn't working. So like my advice is if you're building a program, don't get comped on the number of partners you sign up
Yeah.
or the number of deal regs. Get a more design a matrix or a KPI that's reachable and is legitimate, right? You want to get paid on deals, right? You don't want to get paid on a contract. You have 200 contracts you signed, you got paid on them. Well, great. What are those 200 partners doing? I
Yeah.
once inherited a program that my predecessor just all she did was sign partners up because she got a commission check every time. And I think there were maybe 2 partners that even had deals that were working. So
Wow.
it's not, so
Well,
you
that
want,
goes back to the activation, right? We've talked
yeah,
about that on a handful of episodes recently. It's about the activation. But no, I didn't mean to cut you off. I again, 1,000% agree. I think what's interesting is the core takeaway from this initial framing of the conversation, or with our discussion, is the fact that you're right. It's not a lead generation machine. That's number one, right?
no,
The channel is a scaling engine, and it's only going to work after you've gone and you've proven out, right, that you've got a product market fit. There you go. Say that 5 times fast. But you've proven that you've got a product that fits in the market. You understand who your buyer is, right? And you got to have a repeatable motion.
yeah,
And it just sounds like it's so simple that you would think everybody would do it. And I was just reading something from Kyle Edmund Hayes this morning, right? Because he's leaning in on the whole rev ops, and it's about creating a almost like an embedded revenue generation engine to help companies figure out how to make that step, how to make sure that those couple things are pulled together in a way that it actually makes sense when you execute.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, like we've kind of outlined like what you need to just kind of start the program, like know your ICP, know the partners that work with those ICP, make sure you have, activation, enablement, or product knowledge to the partners. And then, build the program around that. Right. And we build a framework for our clients. We give them a 90-day window of how we're going to do things. We'll create the ICP that is definable to the partners. We'll go out. We know the partners already, so we go out and we'll talk to them about what we're doing. We actually offer the ability to kind of prospect into greenfield accounts for partners to kind of match their greenfield list to our ICP and kind of focus in on what matters most and then bring them into it. If we don't have good lead gen that's bringing leads that we could float over to them, but you want to have a simple program that everybody understands. I don't believe in these tiered structures, gold, silver, platinum. It doesn't work. We've talked about this so many times. I believe in two different categories of margin: a deal reg or partner led, and usually I give 25 points because that's a very attractive margin to help their gross profit, so they make their number. and then a sourced, company sourced, vendor sourced opportunity that we bring to a partner, and they get anywhere from 10 to 15 points. You like another one? I think it's accelerated.
Well, it's like a deal partnership kind of,
Yeah.
where because you got to bring partners into deals, but it's a way to also accelerate the deal because the partner can help you drive the transaction, whether it be through relationships, through contracts, but also allows you to keep track of that, because I think that's important so that you can start to, I used to call it the 2-for-1, right? For every deal partnership, I'd like to get 2 deal regs, but
Right.
but again, it feeds the machine, it feeds the momentum, and it shows the repeatability. It shows all those things I just talked about, right? That you've proven the market, you've got ideal customers, you've got the need, and now you've got something that's repeatable. So you actually have to feed it, right? I call it feeding the
Right.
machine, so to
Yep.
speak. But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think as part of the build out, you need to have, well, how I am about enablement. I really feel like if partners don't know who you are, what you do, they're not going to sell you. There's a whole host of things that go into enablement, not just a course that they could go take and get certified on. It's getting out in front of the partners, going to their offices, sitting in their office all day, working and talking to them as you're working, doing their events, the vendor happy hours.
Yep.
Even though it's a lot of vendors, you can get to know the partner reps a little bit more, and they start to see your face and they remember you. But also on top of that, enablement also means like building materials that the partner can take and absorb and maybe even bring to a customer, like a battle card, or, well, they wouldn't take that to a customer, but a one-page summary, or as we like to do, infographics, right? That are simple. They're
It simple.
very visual. A lot of people are visual learners, right? I am. I need to see something to really fully get it, right? But
Right.
build materials that you can have at your ready for the partner to grab and go, right? On top of that, putting a PRM. Look, I'm a big PRM guy. If you don't have a ton of revenue coming in from a channel, maybe a PRM isn't the most accurate thing you can do, or the most cost-effective thing to do. But it's an important piece of what you're doing, right? And it can tie in everything that you do, and basically that all leads to success with your partners, right?
True.
And I want to take a minute just to kind of talk about channel success, right? Channel success is built on trust, and getting your partners paid on time is what really builds trust. That's why we're very proud to be sponsored by XTRM or Extreme. Whether you're paying spiffs, MDF, rebates, or commissions, Extreme helps you send payments to partners around the world quickly, securely, and in the currency they prefer. Now, if you're a small company, you're probably dealing only with the US. If you're a bigger company, definitely global. But they don't require any manual processes, no payment headaches, just happy partners who stay motivated to sell. And that's what you want. If you want to learn more, go to xtrm.com, extreme.com, and see why leading channel organizations in the industry trust Extreme to power their global partner programs. So I just wanted to highlight that. Thank you for your sponsorship, Extreme.
Awesome.
All right, so let's keep going with the discussion.
Well, talking about with compensation, right? So going back, right, we already talked about the ICP, the ideal customer profile, making sure that you've got a ideal partner lined up so that that partner aligns with your target buyers, and they already understand maybe the reasons for why people want to care about what you do.
Yeah.
I think the other routes to market, John, looking at, how are you doing the resell? How is that co-sell working? We've talked to a couple of friends, in the industry, around the marketplace, doing an MSSP led kind of service, advisory led service as well. Figuring out where where is your number one core that you want to go with, but also understanding that there may be some other ways to get yourself out there. But that being said, the one thing that jumps out at me as when you talked about doing the infographics, and I'm a big, like, I like to go in and
Oh yeah.
figure out the differentiation. I want to understand what makes somebody different,
Yeah.
and then we all get into, well, that's better and this is better. And better can be a very qualitative kind of thing. But I think understanding that competitive differentiation is critical.
Yeah.
And I've seen this, like, if you can't distill your differentiation in 30 to 45 seconds, partner's probably not going to lead with you, because if you can't articulate it, how do you expect them to do it? Right. So
Exactly.
I think
Exactly.
that's really key. And then, we got into, you mentioned, about the compensation and everything. And I think having a very channel friendly pricing model is critical. But I will say this, right? You don't need to worry about a product tour. You need to understand what the sales plays are, or what those use cases are, so that you can go have an actual relevant conversation with somebody, so they understand what you're trying to do to help them overcome the challenge and issue that they
Mhm.
have.
Yeah. What would you say is like the absolute
Ooh.
number one thing you should be or you should have in place before actually recruiting a partner? And I'm going to read a list: a
Ooh.
margin structure, deal registration rules and regulations, or rules of the game, so to speak.
Hmm.
Enablement, demo environment, sales plays, and I categorize sales plays as playbooks. I
Okay.
think those are pretty important. Or incentives. What do you think is like the top choice there before you recruit one partner? What would you have as a I have to have that right in place right now.
Damn. So just yeah, it's a good question. So the question is, what do I absolutely need to have, or what needs to exist
Mm-hmm.
before? Okay. I before, yeah, it's funny because we were talking about this, and I thought it was going to be more of a rhetorical question, but you got me thinking because of what we just went through. So
Right, right.
I would say this, because it's what we do. I think, we're both believers, and I just think everything is built on trust. Relationships are all built on trust. I think
Yeah.
you need a simple partner promise,
Yep.
which means you need a clear ICP, the clear use case, right? A clear partner, understanding of the partner economies of go to market, and then also your rules of engagement. We just did a really great episode where you had your partner bill of rights, right? I think having that, the rules of engagement, and then all that other stuff is going to tie into it. The deal registration, the enablement, all that stuff is going to get defined. But I really think it's about the promise. It's the wrapper that you put around those things.
Mm.
Um, I think you could probably, because you're going to build some of these simultaneously, so they're being built in parallel. And it doesn't have to be fancy, right? It just has to be usable. You just have
Sure.
something that people can go use and execute on. So,
Yep. Yeah, and I think you know, getting back to why you don't treat a channel like an ATM machine, or it's not a lead gen machine. You are what is your new term? Uh, Pipeline execution. You know,
we are, well, pipeline execute, but it's basically we're embedded revenue accelerators.
that's it. Yeah. So your job as a channel leader is to build a program that's going to help fill the pipeline, not create leads necessarily, but with your program and your discussions and your demos for sales engineers, and getting a partner into a deal and having them understand how you work. All
Yep.
that really is like building pipeline. Get partners into deals first. If you're a founder listening to this program, please don't go to partners with your hand out saying, I have a great product, get me in to see XYZ company and let's sell together. It just doesn't work that way, because partners have hundreds, if not 1,000 vendors on their vendor line card that they work with, right? And that are either, actively selling or really doing the work to try and get the pipeline built.
Well, to your point, John, I mean, who don't you think everybody's doing that? I mean,
Sure.
I kind of want to, I was going to say something else, but if that's how you're approaching it, think about it. I mean, if every new vendor, every new company, every startup is walking out saying, "Hey, we've got the greatest things since sliced bread. You need to, take this to XYZ customer," and they're not like, it's to your point, it's going to fall flat because everybody's
Mhm.
doing that. I
Yep.
I believe it comes back to the old adage of you got to give to get, right? If you can, basically, you're going to have to drive that motion, and if you think
Mhm.
that it is the right customer and you're going to do the legwork to get it in, the whole point is to get the partner to help you with that transaction, to help you
Yeah.
with driving that deal to fruition, because most companies won't go with a new vendor, just from a risk perspective. They're going to look to buy through one of their many partners, right? Jay McBain
Yep.
talked about it. It's anywhere from 7 to 9. They're surrounded by 7 to 9 partners. So that's where your IPP comes in. You're going to have to figure out the ideal partner profile so that you can make sure that you're getting in front of the right customer. So, 100%. I mean, I just think that, again, it keeps coming back to keep it simple, keep it clear, but have that plan. And I think it's a give
Yeah.
and get. You got to give before you're going to get.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what? Another idea, if you're like, well, in cybersecurity, if you have a product that requires technical know-how to get it up and running or to maintain it, your best choice to help escalate exposure, build pipeline is to build a service offering with a partner. MSSPs, MSPs, great targets. Some of the resellers, they have service programs. And what that does is it allows the partner to not just sell your license,
Right.
but get a service which they get paid 100% on that. And they love that. Their
And
GP goes through the roof when they come and talk to you about a deal, right? Because they know they can wrap services with it. So those are some like really like little hints. If you're trying, like you said, give before you get. If you give them the ability to run services around your product, it helps exponentially accelerate your program.
yeah, yeah. And to your point, if you're able to do that motion and get through that, right, that's going to help you with your enablement piece. It's going to help
Mm-hmm.
you drive, the sales plays, because that's going to show where the product and the pipeline kind of start to play together.
Yep.
So there's no guessing. And partners want to see that, right? They need to see they need to see the evidence, I guess I'll call it.
Mm.
The evidence that it's actually something that can happen, and it's not messy, and that it
Yep.
is simple, right? So it's like anything, right? Practice, practice, practice your pitch, practice your what your differentiation is, and then just cap that other process on the back end. Simple, easy, and repeatable. Gosh,
Yeah.
I'm gonna get bumper stickers made soon. Um, but
That could be your next infograph. So again, like as we design programs for our clients, we will outline the framework of what we want to do. We like to keep it very simple.
Yep.
We give them a 90-day plan. So if you're out there and you're hired to run a program for a startup, do the work to put the framework in place to show them like step 1, step 2, step 3, this is how we do it. This is what we're going to focus on. Here are the partners we really want to focus on, not 200, but maybe like 5, maybe 3, right? And then you build a 90-day plan to execute the start of the program. That 90 days doesn't mean revenue in 90 days. Let's be honest and realistic. It takes a while to generate revenue with a channel program. If your product is very complicated and technical, you're gonna be kind of held to the sales cycles that your product, is running.
what it dictates. And
Yeah,
I think people think, well, if we go to the channel, like, our typical sales cycle is 9 to 10 months or 9 to 12 months, whatever. But if we go to the channel, man, we should all of a sudden, it's suddenly magically going to be 3 to 4 months. Like,
no,
that's
no. I think the biggest advantage of a channel for a startup is the ability to have an army of sales reps that you don't have to pay,
feet on the street, brother.
feet on the street, just knocking doors, helping you grow your pipeline. But again, got to give first. But
Yep.
you don't have to expand your sales team as quickly
Yeah.
until you see more revenue coming in. Now, I don't want you to think don't build a sales team. I think sales teams are very important, especially partners want to deal with partner, your vendor rep and the partner rep want to work together. And it's good if they're in region and they can, meet up and see each other face to face. But if you don't want to have a sales force like, AWS or Palo right away as a startup, which is unrealistic, you work through the channel and they are your army of sales reps on, feet on the street.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, so that brings me to, I'll kind of pivot the table, because I thought the other piece we were talking about, how to recruit the right partners,
Mm-hmm.
right? And there's usually a couple core things that I know are near and dear to you as well. Having the opportunity to kind of work with you when we're looking at partners, and we've done that. We've looked at the ICP and we're trying to figure out this IPP partner. It is um, a quality over quantity kind of approach,
Sure.
right? And
Yep.
like you were saying, I think, what you say, 3 to 5, 3 to 7,
Yep.
sometimes, and
Yep. Yep.
it will depend on what you're doing. But I know for some, it's just one. Let's just get this one partner. They're
That's it.
big. There's a
Yeah.
good fit. There's a need. But it's going to take some time and some effort, right? But this comes back to, I hate the analogy because of but anyway, but like having a lighthouse partner, having
Mm-hmm.
that one partner becomes your lighthouse. It's the one that starts to show the beacon, where you're cutting your teeth, you're building your program, you're refining the program, because just
Mm-hmm.
because you build something out on paper doesn't mean it's going to always execute 100%, because there will be some challenges and nuances, because it is the nature of what it is.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
so what do you see as kind of and we kind of touched on a couple of them, but looking at that ideal partner profile and recruiting the right partner, what are the top 2 or 3 things that jump out at you?
Well, I like your quality versus quantity. I think that's very number one. I think if you have a lighthouse partner, excellent way to focus, especially if you're a lone wolf doing everything for the company, right? You got to make sure you can utilize your time wisely, right? I think the other thing is you want to recruit with customer success stories. So if you've sold your product and the customers love it,
Yep.
well, you need to have them talk to your partners as a referral to the partner, right? Because a partner rep isn't going to jump in with an unknown entity. They might like you and I because they've worked with us, we've worked with them before, but your product is an unknown,
Yeah.
and I've had that. I've heard a rep say, I don't trust your product yet because I don't know it. So it's tough to get them to want to work with you, right? So I think, recruit customers with a success story. And then I think number 4 or 3B would be, don't recruit multiple partners or like more partners than you need. It just never works. It's a fail because you spend time and energy and sometimes money to get these partners up to speed, and you might not have enough leads to spread around to like 10 to 15 to 20 partners.
Yep. Well, you start doing that, come one, come all, right? It
Mhm.
ends up turning into a circus, because
Yeah.
now you didn't do it. It's like sales, right? But there's got to be a qualification, so kind of pivoting that, because I look, we're dancing around the same thing. So now we get into one of your favorite things, because I joke with people even off the show that you're my enabler. But enablement, right? That actually works. That actually
Hmm.
is effective, I think. And what's interesting is, if there's a list of 8 to 10 different things that you can do from an enablement, what I'm finding really interesting is it kind of shifts. Like, we have some friends, that are doing some stuff with, the AWS in the marketplace. So the enablement needs to kind of be focused over here. But then you've got other solutions where it's like, oh, our solution does XYZ, and we're not really in marketplace. We're working with, a regular VAR. We're working with, the SHIs, the CDWs, the guide points. Like, oh, well, then your enablement needs to be over here, right?
Hmm.
So it does. There's foundational points to it, but I think people have to realize it's not a one size fits all either.
No,
So
no.
looking at that, what are some of the quintessential things? Because I know we've built out some stuff in our practice that I have been super helpful, which I ended up adding, doing our battle cards, like the better to,
Yeah, I
well,
love the battle cards.
right, the
Yep.
battle cards and better together,
Yep.
helping
Yep.
people understand that there's two sides to that sword. There's one where somebody can help you, and then there's the ones where you have to position yourself from a
Mhm.
differentiation perspective. What
Well, I
else?
tell you,
Good.
I I tell you the thing that I really feel is most important for any enablement program is to focus on the technical people at your partner. Sales are equally important, but you could always, one-on-one with a sales rep and kind of explain or provide them with a battle card. But the technical people really want to know the nuts and bolts and understand what it is that, that you're doing. But I think you have to focus on technical enablement. I love the battle cards. They're quick and easy. You don't have to sit there and explain. You give them everything they need to know in a 1 to 2 page document that's easy to absorb. Most important on a battle card is competitive positioning. Let them know where you sit in the competitive landscape so they can understand, oh, you compete with X, Y, and Z, and we sell all those guys, or we don't like working. Like, how many times we hear, with our client that we're working with, when we go in and talk, and they're like, our competitors are in there, but they don't like working with them. They may take deals away. They may be difficult to work with. The margins might not be that great.
Yeah.
And I think building a playbook with a partner, customizing a playbook is another important thing. Like, get them to understand or understand what they want in a playbook action, so you could build it into your playbook, so it'll be, a repeatable process. But I think those are some of the most important things. But when you're enabling a partner, I think simple and easy is always best. Be able to just have them understand quickly what you do, how you compete, what are your use cases, what's your ICP. Have it just on a 2-page document that they could go in and reference. How many times we provided it to partner reps and like, this is great. I'm having a call with my customer about, app security, and this will be great. I'll be able to explain it to them,
1,000%, man. No, it's and I agree with all that, So, and I was going to come back, so I'll just kind of pile on. I mean, number one, I agree with the technical enablement, because that is the technical enablement and the technical education for getting engaged there. That's where you're going to have, that's the confidant for the sales rep at your partner. So your partner rep is going to kind of just lean and be like, does this make sense? Is this like, is what they're saying? Like, they're going to validate it. That's number one.
Yeah.
I do agree with the battle card. Like, I love the battle cards, and they've been really good and refined. And I think the battle cards kind of also fall into the competitive positioning piece, which I think is really important.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan right now, and I've become a bigger fan over the past year, and thanks to some AI capabilities, but doing the use case based selling, and getting that really refined to the ICP with the vertical, so that you're going in and you've got a very clean, clear, simple message that you're saying, okay, in this vertical with this type of client, here's the problem we're finding. Here's the use case. Here's what it is.
Yeah.
But I'll say this, and we've talked about this. We've had a couple guests on in the past, and just my 2 cents. I really believe too many companies treat enablement like an event and not a system or a process.
Yeah, and they try to overcompensate it, and they feel like you have to do that to work with the partner.
Well, they treat it as a checkbox, John. They treat that training right there. But they treat the training as a checkbox, and then they wonder why the partner's not selling, right? The bottom line is real enablement is ongoing. It is a perpetual thing that you're there. You go out, you start it. You're doing deal support. You're doing field alignment. You're doing the mapping and the focused account use case alignments, right? You're driving all those things. God willing, right? You do those things in the beginning. you'll get to the point that you can do a QBR with them and you can
Mm,
modify, right, and help them drive all that
yeah,
stuff. I know a handful of guys in the channel, man. It's a big deal when you're invited to sit in on the QBR. That's a big play. That
sure.
means that you're now getting the opportunity to not only because the enablement is continuing. It's now this really great where you're doing almost a
Yeah,
refresher. Here's what we
yeah,
did.
yeah.
Here's what we're doing, and here's where we're going.
Yeah. All right. So we're bumping up against the end of the
Ultimum.
hour here. I'm going to do takeaways today, and I have 8 takeaways.
Jesus.
I know. So let's look. Founder of the startup, look me in the eye right now. Look me in the eye. Here are the mistakes to avoid when building a channel program. And channel person who's doing this with the founder, you look me in the eye too. Number one, hiring a channel too early when you really have no revenue or customers or any opportunity, right? Number two, hiring a channel too late when you're like, just not getting out, or you have opportunity and nowhere to go, and you're not building more opportunity because you're only focused on what's coming in, and you don't have the channel to help, alleviate that.
Yep.
Bad compensation. Don't undercompensate partners. Give them as much as you can. That helps go a long way. They all know the margins from all the vendors. Be the vendor that has a great margin because they're going to work with you, right?
Yep.
If there's no executive support, founder, channel person, if you're not on the same page, seeing eye to eye about channel, I wouldn't suggest building a channel program. Partners see through that very easily, right? Don't have too much process, but don't have enough process. Make sure you have a clear understanding of the program, how it works. Don't overcomplicate it. I mean, how many times have I seen like channel programs built and they're just pages and pages on their website of all the things you need to do and, check this box, and don't do that. Make it simple. Don't buy or build a PRM before you have partner revenue coming in. It's kind of a waste of money. I love PRM, but if nobody's utilizing it, that's going to be a big glaring red signal, for the founders and the executives that it's not working. And then measuring registrations instead of revenue isn't the right way to go. I would say measuring revenue is the right way to go because that means you're closing business. Registrations could be anything. Like I said, that example I heard, reps were just kind of asking their partner friends, give me a name and I'll put it in as a deal reg and I'm going to get counted. Yeah, that's not the right way to go.
No.
So those are kind of my takeaways of what we talked about and how we build a program and what to look out for.
I'll tell you what, I just want to pilot you. 3 of them jumped out because, in fact, one of them, I'm going to jump on the PRM one first because I 100% agree with you. And what's really interesting is, I think and again, doing the editing of the shows, like I start to hear this messaging, right? But I'll say this, and this could be my little quip or my little quote, right? But a PRM does not create strategy. It organizes the strategy.
Yeah.
Right. And I kept thinking about that as soon as you said what you said, I'm like, yeah, so people try to put the cart before the horse with a PRM. Right. And I also think the deal registration piece, right? Registrations, I'm on the same, man, I'm in that court, right? Registrations are not the goal. It's the pipeline activation and the conversion that is the goal because you're now focused on revenue. Right. So I'm just saying, like those 2 really kind of jumped out at me, and at the end of the day, partners are going to amplify the demand, and they may not initially create it, but they're going to help you amplify it. So it's that give and get, right? We need to bring proof to them with the solution, with the messaging to drive the momentum. Yeah. So I loved it. You said 8 and I got nervous, but I think you nailed it.
Well, I think this was a very good topic. Anyone listening, if you have further questions, if you're a founder, you want to talk to us, hey, we will be happy to talk to you. You could reach us at john@channelsurfers.com or jeff@channelsurfers.com. Our website obviously is channelsurfers.com. We do have a LinkedIn company page, just the Channel Surfers, and we have a YouTube channel. So you can you can find us pretty much anywhere, and we're on all the podcasting services. But listen, if you're out there trying to do this on your own, building, and you don't know where to go, feel free to reach out and ask us questions. That's why we're here. We want to help people that we were in your position at one time, and we needed help, and sometimes we didn't get answers. We had to figure it out on our own, right? But yeah, I think this was a very interesting topic. Happy to help clarify or continue the conversation outside of the podcast.
Yeah. Like you said, drop questions, that you can hit us on the website. You can connect, come on and be a guest. We'd love to have the discussion. Just to add to your last thing, I mean, which we didn't really have time to get into it, but there's this whole other AI component that we could talk about where you want to get engaged because there's underpinnings to the tools. But to your point, look, we're not gonna, what did Kyle say, right? We're going to do it in a teacup, right? You don't boil the ocean. You do it one teacup at a time.
That's right.
So, just take a moment, think about where you think the challenges are. But even if you're not sure, reach out. I mean, we're more than happy to sit down and have a conversation and maybe help you identify or clarify where some of the challenges are and what you can do to get them rectified.
Yep. Well, this is a good show, Jeff.
Thanks, man.
Next time. Want to thank our sponsor Extreme once more, and until the next show, we will talk again, and thanks for doing this.
Awesome, man. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Cheers, everyone.